in. Hopefully. It's too bad we didn't start this like 20 minutes ago, because I'm pretty sure I would have gotten a raid from my good friend Beazle, but that's okay. Alright,
Now, is there supposed to be a secondary like screen that's supposed to be covering everything? Because we're vocal. I can hear us.
What do you mean?
So there's no countdown timer like you normally have.
No, so because we're kind of doing like the pre-show thing right now. So kind of this is kind of where we're just, shooting the shit just before the podcast.
Welcome to the train wreck. If you knew how many technical difficulties we had up till this point.
Exactly. Because what we're gonna eventually do is eventually subscribers to the channel or subscribers to the podcast will have access to this VOD over and above. So like, I mean, obviously like the podcast is only gonna be up on Twitch for 2 weeks. So what our subscribers will get was they'll be able to get the unedited version. So anybody that listens on the actual podcast will get what the edited audio is. It's a whole transparency thing. All right, what am I doing? Opening up Twitch on my end. I just want to see how you sound on Twitch. So I'm gonna mute me, and you're gonna talk for a couple minutes.
I don't like the pressure.
Yeah, I'm waiting for Laughing to drop in. He'll be here soon, probably.
Quite possibly. And then I'll catch it later. So, who knows?
What was that?
Either that or he'll catch it later. Who knows? Yeah, I have to get the foam tiles.
All right, so what I need to do, seeing as we're technically in the pre-show, I can make a couple of changes on the filters. We are going to
I've moved it closer this time.
Oh, that was better. I like that. Right there is perfect.
Yep, it's right in front of my face.
Yeah.
Like I
Did yours sit on the desk? Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So apparently the number one rule of podcasting that I was told is 6 inches away from your mouth, or basically put your fist in front of your face, touch the mic, and that's how close you pretty much want to be. Yeah, well, not that close, but I mean, for me, I'm pretty much like, even when I'm streaming, because like I'm usually sitting about right here. Now it's like,
sound like I'm on old time radio.
Yeah. Oh boy.
You poor bastard.
So yeah, for starting next week, I have a new intro to the podcast, and it's a little bit less Elder Scrollsy, and it's a little bit more Rocky meets metal.
Oh boy, I can't wait to hear this.
It's actually from a Final Fantasy game.
Hey,
it's
Key.
About 15 seconds build up.
Gotta get my bonus channel points.
Hey, Key, how's it going, buddy? What's the for?
Contemplating whether or not to stay watching the train wreck.
Ah, it's Key. He's oh, by the way, speaking of Key being here, this reminds me, I did finally send you that guild invite, and it is pending a request of acceptance, so.
No, it's not pending anymore.
Oh,
in fact,
perfect.
I even said something to you in guild chat last night, but
Did you?
Totally ignored.
It must have been as I was logging out for the night.
Nah, that you were AFK hard. I don't know what the hell you were doing.
Oh. Because it still said pending request about 15 minutes prior to me leaving or logging off. So
no, I'm there.
Another from Key.
Were you busy burping inside of Rift?
Oh, probably, yeah. Oh, by the way, I fixed that. So apparently somehow in my overlay, everything had shifted over to the left and was actually phased out of the screen. And I didn't notice it because it was showing me that the border was perfectly fine. So The only reason that I figured it out is everything seemed slightly off center when I was looking at it like really closely. So I was like, okay, I gotta fix this shit. So wait, Key, thank you so much for that donation, my friend. Those little bitties. I don't have my alert box up. I should probably fix that. At least give the alerts, but no sounds. But I have to, you know what? Oh, right. That's why we're not doing bumpers anymore. So, technically, I can put that in. You know what? One sec. Sounds good, Key. You have yourself a nice little rest with the pups. Yeah, I'll put the alert box in. We're gonna silence the actual alert itself. Tyler streams tonight at 5. I will definitely try and stop in Key. I will be probably lurking for the most part, as I will be in trial. Alright, add source. Let's add this quickly. Problem is, there we go. Default. Okay, perfect. Alright, everything is set to default by the looks of things, so that's good. Alright, we're just gonna do a quick test by well, that's interesting.
What now?
So
What'd you break?
these bits never actually showed up in my mini feed, which is interesting. I'll have to see if it popped up on the other side when I actually stream a little bit later, because we're going to be doing the doing Asylum Sanctorium with Cause and Miss Fiery tonight. Anyways,
Have fun. You're gonna
Right.
die.
Oh yeah, probably.
Maybe you should consider getting rid of the death counter. It's like borderline tilting. I wouldn't want to see my numbers go up like that.
I mean, it's either the death counter that's there on stream on my Streamlabs side of things, or the death counter that I have in game. I'm gonna see it regardless. I can close it. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, for sure. Key, she should be going for a while. Oh yeah, that's right. It's our charity stream tonight. And no, I did not break it. I don't think Streamlabs views the Twitch bits. I probably have to set that up through Stream Elements. Anyways, guys.
He definitely broke it. Again,
Yeah,
there was so much back end stuff even before this that.
I mean, this guy right here. This guy. Yeah. Winters over here was like, not even a person for like 5 minutes prior to the show.
I'm not a person, you fucker.
Well, I mean, your camera was showing you as a bunch of text from our conversation that I mean, as much as I'd love to show you guys what we were talking about, it's not relevant. Actually, it kind of is relevant. We were talking about the podcast that we are going to be starting here in about a minute. So speaking of which, so yeah, we're going to do our, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap us over to a slideshow. I'm going to play a certain song or two, and we're going to kind of just give ourselves a few minutes of silence so that I can easily find the beginning of the show to add the bumpers in later. Yes, Winter's Noble does not exist anymore. I mean, he's right there. How does he not exist anymore? Look over there. I'm pointing over there because that's where my second monitor is. He's over there. even in my camera on Discord, if I point that way, it's pointing at you. So that's perfect. That's good to know now. I know references. I broke him. Yes, no, Winters broke me, all right?
Kinara's got a sense of direction now.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, let's see if this mute button works now. Perfect. So the mute button mutes both of us, so I don't even have to tell you to be quiet anymore. I can just mute us both.
Wow.
One button. Yep. All right. Let us make sure.
At least I know you can't just abuse your power.
Pretty much, right? No, I've put it so that the mute button is for both of us. All right. We are ready to go. So I'm going to swap over to the slide. I'm not going to do that. So All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Fallen Stars of Tamriel podcast. This is episode number 9. And today we have myself, Kinara, as well as my co-host, Winters Noble.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the dumpster fire.
Dumpster fires always happen. And I mean, if you guys were on the pre-show, you would all know how much of a dumpster fire this whole thing is. How's Winters doing today?
Hang on 1 second. I'm doing okay,
sure.
but I think something just occurred. Hang on 1 second.
Not a problem. While we're waiting on Winters there to do whatever he's doing, guys, next week is episode number 10. However, it's going to be changing up a little bit, and I want to announce the new Starfallen Games radio podcast show. It's no longer going to be called Fallen Stars of Tamriel. What does that mean for Kinara and Winters? Well, it means that for now, we will be doing a bi-monthly ESO update episode. So every other week, you will be hearing us, talk about ESO. However, what's going to end up happening is we're going to be changing it up a little bit. It's not going to be just about ESO anymore. This podcast is going to be growing into something more. We're going to have a monthly game talk episode. We're going to have a monthly talk show episode where, Kinara and Winters are going to kind of, tell you who we are as, content creators, and, Winters' amazing art talent and stuff like that. We're going to show off some community broadcasts. Those community broadcasts are basically going to be up and coming streamers on the Twitch pages, on the Facebooks, on the YouTubes, anything content creation related will be coming from that. We're going to be doing some interviews as well as guest appearances. This once a month segment will be basically to bring spotlight down on some amazing content creators that deserve all the love and support we can bring them. So guys, so 2 episodes of ESO every month, and then a talk show and gaming talk show. Basically, that's going to be a 4-week stint, but however, there will be breaks in between, so you're not going to be getting an episode every single week. Sometimes it might be 2 episodes and then a week off with another 2 episodes following. Sometimes it might be 3. It might even be 4. It all really depends on how everything goes, but we're working towards a new schedule, we're working towards a new brand, and we're bringing you Starfallen Games Radio instead of just Fallen Stars of Tamriel. Because at the end of the day, we all know that games come and go, and as much as we love Elder Scrolls, don't get me wrong, Elder Scrolls is our main game. There is so many other games out there that we want to play and we want to bring to you, and there are so many games coming up in the last part of 2020, as well as the new stuff that's coming out in 2021. I know that Cyberpunk is just around the corner. I know that Amazon, yes. I know that everybody is so hyped about Project Red. And
you're good. Keep going.
Yeah. I know that with Project Red being one of the major designers behind that game, that everybody is so stoked because of Witcher. But let's not get too carried away. This is an Elder Scrolls podcast still for one more episode. So, guys, last week on the show, we covered QuakeCon's recap, a community spotlight on Faturko's fallout in ESO housing projects, and then the Stone Thorn Dungeon preview. We then sprinkled in a very lengthy topic in our Acolytes Corner segment on antiquities. Now, unfortunately, because antiquities took us so long last week, we weren't able to cover the class changes. That is this week. We are definitely getting down and dirty with these class changes. We are not going to be doing it at an Acolytes Corner. We're just going to get straight on into a couple of news articles. Then we're going to get right down into the dirt of the entire show. And then right at the very end, we'll talk about some of the new gear sets coming out. And then we'll wrap it up and say our goodbyes, say our farewells, because, next week is no longer Fallen Stars of Tamriel. It's going to be Starfallen Games Radio. And I know I keep saying that, but I'm excited for the new move, and I think episode 10 would be the best time to start it at. It is call it season 2 of what Kinara and Winters have in store. When I first started the podcast, it was just for ESO, but when I brought Winters on, we wanted to talk more than just ESO. We wanted to talk about games. We wanted to talk about, everything. So we're going to make a radio show instead of just a podcast show. So, without further ado, let us jump on over into the news.
Good timing.
Good timing. What? All right, perfect. All right, guys. So,
Stretched red.
it is no secret that Greymore's, or not Greymore, but ESO's soundtracks have always been absolutely fantastic. Brad Derrick has done an amazing job on all of the original soundtracks, and he has not disappointed with the new Greymore soundtrack. So, guys, with the release of the Elder Scrolls Online Greymore original soundtrack, you can discover the team that went behind composing, recording, and mastering the music behind the game. As always, Brad and his team have created a stunning new composition that maintains those essential Elder Scrolls elements while also capturing what makes this newest chapter so unique. If you'd like to own the complete Greymore chapter soundtrack, you can pick it up for yourself online right now or from these retailers: Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon MP3, Amazon Streaming, and Google Play. Guys, if you guys haven't heard any of Brad Derrick's music prior, then you're really not listening to the game set music, and I honestly encourage that everybody has game music going on while they're playing this game. Guys,
Always
there is
do.
also... Yeah, exactly.
Always do. In fact, I keep it on in Cyrodiil too. Sometimes it's a dead giveaway as to what's about to happen to you.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think people actually know that it actually hints that there might be danger from another player in the area.
Right. Or, if you're, a craftaholic and trying to gather resources, makes different noises. Nern Root is one of the most unique sounds that it makes, and you can definitely hear it there. I suggest everybody has, their game sounds on so they can hear all of that fun stuff. Now, last thing on the Greymore original soundtrack is, if you guys want to take a look, there is actually a video that was released on the Elder Scrolls Online official webpage underneath the news inside the Discover How the New Greymore soundtrack was made. If you guys want to go take a listen, that is over there. Last but not least, guys, it is no secret as well that Update 27 has had a lot of cool things coming, including those for the housing enthusiast. Guide your assistants, mounts, and pets through your house and make it feel more alive than ever with the new character pathing tool. Guys, there was a ESO live edition stream that featured Gina Bruno, Jess Forrester. I probably just murdered her last name. Close enough. And another, Jess, what is her last name? Why can't I think of this? Anyways, I know it starts with an F. I can't remember the rest. Anyways, you're rude. You're mean. You're my co-host. You're supposed to be helping me with this stuff. Jessica Folsom. That is what it is. Perfect. I just had to push play, but I had to make sure that the bumpers were muted so it didn't come through. Anyways, guys, if you guys want to take a look at that full breakdown, head on over to the Elder Scrolls Online official page again and take a look at the news article named Create a Bustling Hub of Activity with Character Pathing. So, now that we've covered...
From the soundtrack stuff, I will tell you that I spent many a time just kind of chilling, sitting here with my headset on, just kind of listening to the surrounding area, music, anything that's related to, not even just the music, but even the sound of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's relaxing until somebody runs by and tries to kill an NPC and you hear the sounds of combat. You're like, there went my Zen moment.
I totally agree, man. I totally agree. For me, I don't have the game music on, but that's usually because I have Spotify playing in the background on my end so that I can hear all of it instead of just the zone music. But yeah, I absolutely love the ESO music. If you guys don't remember from the earlier beginning streams that I had always had ESO playing in the background because how am I going to get DMCA'd by streaming ESO and then playing their music? If I got DMCA'd, that'd be kind of crappy, wouldn't it? Anyways.
If they just decide to declare war on streamers.
Well, at that point, I think they'd have to shut everybody down to streaming in general.
Yeah, I don't think. But and as for pathing, I'm going to tell you right now, we're one step closer to having like a dragon inside your house and it eats anybody who comes in. I want that.
Right,
I want it
guard
bad.
dog or guard dragon.
I want to. I would at that point. I would set the housing to open if I could have something that attacks somebody who walks in.
No doubt, right?
And especially if you could set it so it attacks anybody that's not a member of like your guild or a set guild. Like so somebody just travels too. Because when I bought Potentate's Retreat, I'm there like checking out my house. I'm like, this is cool. And then there were strangers there. I was like, alrighty, you can come to me. That's great. Get out of my house.
No doubt, right? So are they on your were they on your friends list or they were just literally complete strangers?
They were complete strangers because apparently somebody else was in the house. They traveled to their friend who was in the house.
Oh, snap.
My house. I was like, so these people aren't even on my guild list. Because I was like, I was only a member 3 guilds at the time. So I was like, let me go take a look. Because, yeah, I'm not as opposed to it if you're in the same guild I'm in. No. So I'm like, remove that. Only people who, I'm like, whatever. But if we could have like a guard animal, I'd open it up. Free for all.
I totally agree.
I'd be sitting there in my throne waiting. Yes. Come visit me.
His main hall for his house, guys, if nobody's seen it, I mean, you'd have to either be a friend of his or in this case a friend of his or a friend of a friend. Anyways, I could continue on for forever. But his
apparently you have a very sensual voice though.
Apparently. Yeah, Skinny Dork says in chat that I have a very soothing voice. I appreciate that compliment. I have, tried to do everything I can to make sure that, the audio on my end is coming in as good as possible. So I do appreciate...
I need to screech like a banshee. That's
yeah, pretty much. Total different dynamic, right? But yeah, if nobody has seen Winter's house, maybe I'll do a tour of it one day on stream and let you guys see it. But in the middle of the first area that you go in, he's basically got the Knights of the Round Circle going on with all the thrones around the middle of the room between the columns, and that's what he's talking about. Sitting on his throne that he's caged me in many, many a time for trying to sit in.
Well, you deserve it, and that's why I keep the cage in that room. So I can maneuver it and put it on top of somebody.
Exactly. So, guys, yeah. Last but not least, I know I've said it a couple of episodes now. We are officially on iTunes. So, guys, if you like to listen to Apple Podcasts, we are over there. And then just a reminder that as of next week, we are changing the name. So you'll be seeing it as under Star Fallen Games Radio instead of Fallen Stars of Tamriel. Quickly here, guys, before we head on over to the news, we just want to thank you guys for all your support and, everything that has been what it is. We have finally topped over the 100 view mark on our first 9 episodes now. So, guys, really, really appreciate all the support.
Yes, thank you kindly. And just a heads up as to why I had to bail out for a moment. It started raining and windows were open galore.
No! Oh,
it's sudden rain clouds. Today was like sunny, no clouds in the sky, and now it's like all of a sudden it's like your windows are open, it's pouring. I'm like, oh crap.
Oh boy. Oh yeah, Skinny is part of our guild now. That's right too. Yes. All right. So, are we ready to talk about some class changes?
Oh boy.
Gonna be a doozy.
I mean,
Guys,
there are in some changes, but it's not. I mean,
there's some pretty significant changes to some classes. Some of them are performance related, and some of them are, pretty substantial.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain things that I like. There's certain ones that I'm just kind of like. Ugh.
And that is why, and right there is why I asked you to record in Audacity, because I'm gonna have to fix that now.
What I say?
You went total robot on my end.
Oh.
Total robot. By the way, yes, guys, starting this week as well. Yeah, you're still robot. Holy crap. Now you're frozen. Are you there still? Oh, now you're back. There you go.
My connection. It should be fine.
Yeah, it's probably my end. It's probably Discord taking a dump. I mean, it wouldn't be this week if, something else didn't frickin' die. Oh, right, by the way, we're not going to swear on this episode the best we can. I think we've been doing good so far, so.
I screwed that up at the beginning of the pre-show.
That's okay. Pre-show is fine. Once the actual episode starts, that is when. So yeah, guys, family-friendly show. We're gonna try and actually work towards not swearing. It's gonna create more of an audience, because there are people out there that do listen to this this show with kids in the room. So I don't want them to report us for unclean lyrics or anything like that. But let's
bull plop, okay?
the typical swear words. So the F word, the S word, the B word, the other S word, the typical words that you probably wouldn't say to your mom.
All right, so you want me to remain silent the whole time. I got you.
Douche is okay. Crown Prince of Douche is okay. I couldn't take that title away from you.
Thank you.
So, all right, guys, let us get on into the...
I want to make a trophy for it, too. It's like, the Crown Prince of Douche.
What about, nincompoop. Yep, we can say nincompoop. All right, guys, we are going to shoot on over to these class changes. We're muted, so just 5 seconds. Just so I can find the break. All right, guys. So with update 27 coming just around the corner, we wanted to finally touch base on the class changes. Again, do apologize that, last week we never made it to it, but the Antiquities Acolytes Corner took us a long ass time. So my apologies for that. However, if you guys are interested in taking a look at the entire patch notes, as we are only covering the class changes this week, as well as I think we're going to touch base just quickly on the Munda Stone changes. You guys can find those over at the forums on the Elder Scrolls Online page, and I will also have them attached to the show notes of the actual audio version of the podcast once I release it tomorrow night. So basically, in addition to the item set changes that they've made, many of the abilities have also received some backend improvements to their scripting to help reduce unnecessary effects, checks, and logic parsing, and will now more accurately follow their described behaviors, such as proc conditions.
Either that, or they'll actually look like they're supposed to, because apparently one of them is they had the animations reversed between a morph and the base one. It was like, ah.
Yeah, I saw something like that. There was also another one where they didn't line up properly, so things just looked odd.
That's one of the Temple ones too, and that makes me sad because of what they did. We'll get to that. Heartbroken.
Yeah, another amazing performance update coming from ZOS, and I don't know how amazing it'll be until we actually find out on Monday. If you have been on the PTS server, which I have not, and I believe Winters is also not, because he hasn't really been in touch with the game in a physical aspect, mentally maybe, but he has not actually been logged into the game recently. He's taking
if you ask Cause, yesterday I kind of ran her over again.
Did you run her over again yesterday? Nice. Oh yeah, I guess you were there yesterday, because apparently Winter's over here accepted my guild invite. and then said something to me, and I completely just ignored him. So there's that. Anyway.
Son of a gun.
Some new area of effect adjustments have been made to the backend operations to help reduce their messaging and overall requirements to ping an area. Now, Winters has said this on on other episodes about how, the amount of calculations that are sent to the server, which will legitimately change the can change your ping and performance, and either crash the server or lag you out so bad. So I'm hoping that these will actually make a relatively good change to the performance side of things, and maybe we'll actually get some more stable frames per second, because this game is amazing, and the frames per second are what really bugs it sometimes.
No, I mean, it's not even per se the frames per second, because it comes down to the latency. It's really what's happening. Because I mean, yeah, okay, if your computer can't handle it, but if there's a high latency, it won't matter, what your frames per second is. I mean, I push decent frames, but when the latency, when your ping spikes to over 1,000, because the game is trying to send a lot of information for every tick of an AoE, that's being cast in the area. I mean, when you factor in what it actually is calculating, I mean, it's the initial effect, then it's, how many people does it affect? What's their resistances to, to certain things? So then it has to calculate the actual damage. Then there's different, percentage decreases that it has to calculate. Then your CP comes into factor. So now it's got to calculate all the different CP parts of your tree. So there's the resistance increases, the critical decreases, the amount of damage increase based on elemental versus whether or not it's just magic type critical damage increase. I mean, it's the amount of calculations it has to do. It's exorbitant.
Exactly. And then, I mean, that has to be done exponentially, because there's a tick. So every, half second or 1 second or 3 seconds, depending on the skill, it's got to redo all those calculations again.
Yeah, and then if you're recasting it, basically, next thing it has to calculate is who's getting hit again. So now it's got to throw in what's being hit at what point. So
I mean, for me, when I'm playing my Sork, I cheese the mobs a little bit when I'm attacking them. I'll just keep slamming down that elemental wall because it'll explode. And so I'll, light attack, elemental wall, and just keep on hitting it. And whoever's in that line, it's always doing those calculations. How much damage is it doing? What's the resistances, like Winters had all said. So,
and then remember, with certain skills, even inside of that, like with passives, then there's additional, spread out of the damage anyway. So now it's calculating who's getting hit with the additional passive damage and different things on top of that. So with the amount of things it has to calculate based on passive skills, CP, armor sets, it's a lot for the server. I mean,
yeah, exactly. It gets super crazy. And I mean, I've definitely seen it when I'm doing that with the mobs. I start seeing massive drops. I think I went down to 5 frames per second. I was spamming that damn move so fast. Just the explosion alone, and then spamming that and having all those calculations. It gets pretty crazy. So basically, with these new AoE adjustments, they have only currently applied them to the Dragon Knight standard and its morphs, as well as some of the monsters' abilities. So, I mean, we're not getting them on all AoEs. I think they're doing it in incrementals to make sure that, they're going in a forward direction instead of a backwards direction.
Yeah, you don't want to... I don't want to see them do a massive blanket change, and then all of a sudden it's just a world of regret. You look at what they did going back a couple patches when they buffed dots, then they nerfed the dots, then they nerfed them so much they're like, oops, they made the community pissed, and they're like, all right, we'll revert it a little. So when they do large scale changes, it becomes a problem, and the community will scream.
Yeah, exactly.
Not for ice cream, I'll tell you.
So basically they have said that they are going to they plan to monitor the overall improvements in a real combat environment. Then they will slowly comb through all of the old AoE abilities and apply the changes where applicable. So some things that they have also fixed was an issue where some projectiles would hover around your character in some very rare cases. They fixed an issue where newly equipped weapons could occasionally not appear, or they would appear like you were floating on them. Like me with my Dragon Knight, every time.
Away, or when you were actually because I had it where at one point on my Templar hybrid, where it had a restoration staff back bar and a great sword front bar. And I would switch back to the restoration staff and was holding it like it was the great sword. I'm like,
So
I'm
for
going
me,
to club you with the staff.
yeah. So for me, from switching from sword and board when I was tank on my DK to my staff, the sword and board would be nicely, like the sword would be nicely placed on the top of the on the inside of the shield and then put underneath my feet, and I would have the staff in my hands. And then when I had the staff in my hands, it wouldn't actually show up. And then it would sorry. When I went back to the, I can't remember now, but I know that at one point, I don't know how the combination was, I was shooting fireballs out of my feet.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the only way to fix it was to lock and unlock my pieces.
You're an anime character at that point. That's awesome.
Pretty much. The only way I was able to fix it was by locking and unlocking the piece. I could not unequip it and equip it. It would, and then every time I relogged into that character, I had to redo the lock and unlock thing because it would happen every time. And then all of a sudden, one day, it just stopped, and it was only on a certain gear set, and I believe it was Pariah's.
I think with like sword and board, I have a tendency, like at some point, it'll just look like I'm surfing on the shield.
That's exactly what was happening. That's what I meant.
Yep.
So that was a thing. Your characters have now been taught some more eloquent manners and eat more subtly if blocking. Because, we all eat while we're blocking. This will fix...
block canceling consumption of food. That's awesome. When you have to cut the...
Why they even had to put this in there?
The things that they address, like, this is a priority.
I mean, it makes for our jobs to be very humorous. So, excuse me. So this will fix an issue where eating while holding block could result in a truly barbaric visual results. Guys, if you guys want to see what this means, go into the game right now, block and eat some food and see how bad it gets, because I've never actually seen how bad this gets. I've never been zoomed in that much to see how I'm eating my food while in the middle of a dungeon or trial. Anyways, they also
been pressed so hard to eat food in the game. I mean, I've been pressed to eat food quickly outside of the game, but not in the game.
I have jeez. So I have an add-on that basically allows me to eat food automatically, and it does it on a 10-minute timer, or if I've just come off of a battle while it's on that 10-minute timer, as soon as I come out of the battle, it will refresh. So anyways, I've never seen that being a problem. Anyways, let's keep moving here, because we could take forever talking about each one of these bullet points, and we haven't even started on our first class.
And we're like 40 minutes in.
Pretty much, right? So we fixed an issue where cast time abilities could miss an invisible target while a detection potion was active. They also fixed an issue where abilities that cost health and dealt damage would fail to be incorporated in a target dummy's damage per second calculation reports. That's the one that you get when you finish killing a dummy and it goes into your chat. They also fixed an issue where abilities that granted slotted passive bonuses such as werewolf transformation could apply at incorrect times. Yeah. So buffs and debuffs, go ahead.
I just remember like the visual aspects of like the werewolf when they look like, I can't even describe it. Just a visual mess of werewolf.
Or when you come out of werewolf form and still run like a werewolf.
Yeah, that or you're like you're still human and yet you're like horribly. Yeah, you're malformed. It's horrible. It's like oh god, my character's stuck this way. Relog.
Yep. So the buffs and debuffs, they had some numerous instances that were fixed where minor vulnerability from certain sources such as teleport strike, bolt escape, praise the bolt escape, were not being detected properly by sets like Icy Conjurer. So those are some of the back end fixes that they made to certain, AoEs, buffs, and debuffs. All right, we are going to start on Dragon Knight, and I'm going to leave Dragon Knight up to Winters over here while I refill my glass and use the washroom. All yours, buddy.
The host is a dick. All right, so Dragon Knight we're looking at with the Ardent Flame skill line. We have the Dragon Knight standard. They fixed an issue where the visual effects for this ability and its morphs could end early in some cases. So it's just a standard fix. You drop it down and it disappeared, but they're still getting hit by it. Which is, to me, is nice because it was deceptive inside of Cyrodiil. Shifting standard morph fixed an issue where this ability would last longer than intended in some cases. I can see that. It was definitely occurring all too frequently. But other than that, just basic fix on Ardent Flame Dragon Knight standard. Draconic Power, Inhale, Deep Breath, the morph of Inhale. This morph's explosion now deals 25% more damage. The initial hit no longer ranks up by 1.1% damage per rank, but the final hit now does. It's nice in general for that, just because of the additional damage per the cost. I mean, it's an underused skill. It wasn't really the most popular one in the first place. The one that I actually like a little bit more from this is Draw Essence, and that just comes from the PvP side of things. Looking at Draw Essence, it says the morph now heals for up to 147% of the damage done, up from 100%, and ranks up by 1% per rank. The final explosion of this ability no longer increases by 1.1% damage per rank. I liked that skill, even it wasn't the most used, just because it was an interesting heal and did a little bit of AoE damage. It was nice in larger scale fights, just because you're pulling from more players. I found that if you were a tanky character in that regard as a DK, it helped with heals. DKs are kind of short on them for the most part, and which is nice because it looks like they kind of rectify that a little bit with the next skill with Dragon Blood, but DK always had a healing disadvantage versus all the other classes. Outside of if they were using Resto Staff.
You said that Deep Breath no longer ranks up on the initial hit, but does on the final hit. So does that really make any difference?
It really isn't that big of a deal. That difference. I mean, the 25% overall. It's just skill wise was never really a top performer, and the time it takes for that skill. I think that's just them trying to make the skill a little bit more usable, a little more utility. But,
yeah. Okay. Perfect. Sorry, I just had to throw my phone because there's no way I'm going to be able to fix that audio F up.
Because basically the concept of the skill is you're pulling the damage in, and then it gets blasted out. So the little bit of the health pull versus the release of the fire, essentially. So Draw Essence is I pull in and I do a little bit, but I heal from it. When it for the damage that it does. So it's better in a larger scale with more opponents because you'll get more health out of it. It's not something you want to use in a single target. I wouldn't use it in the likes of, let's say, any kind of boss fight or anything like that. But if you're like a DK and you need some AoE, outside of the dots that you put down, it could be viable in that regard to, pull from mobs and keep you alive if you have a tendency of dying. I think it's more of a utility skill in that regard because it'll, let's say Draw Essences, it'll keep you alive and kicking and alleviate some of the stress on a healer.
Doesn't Draw Essence also help with Magicka recovery?
I
believe it does, and the only reason I want to say that, I'm going to pull this up while we're still talking. The only reason I say that is because I'm pretty sure I used to slot it on my tank in the lobby dungeons when I was trying to, recover some of my Magicka, because as a tank, your higher resource was stamina, so you didn't really build back Magicka. So I would use that as a health skill. But 1 sec here. Draw Essence.
Yeah, I got it up
See
here.
if I can...
After 2.5 seconds, you exhale fire, dealing 636 flame damage to nearby enemies and restoring 10% of the ability's cost for each enemy hit as Magicka. Yeah, it will regen it.
Perfect. So yeah, so that's I used to use that one as a tank just for that specific reason, so that I had, somewhat of a magic of recovery, because I used to play that hybrid idea of, I'm gonna poke you and I'm gonna block you with my sword and board, but I want to do as much magic damage as I possibly can, so I'm just gonna smack you with a whole bunch of magic, and then I'll rehail it back up with my draw essence. So that does make sense. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I like that skill earlier on. I mean, with the way things, and now that they're bringing it back with a little bit of the healing, the draw essence, and bringing it up, to me, it might be worth a while to test it and see how it does in, let's say, group play, inside of Cyrodiil, or even inside of PvE circumstances. At least when you're doing a lot of trash mobs.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, it's definitely absolutely useless in a one-on-one. Whether
of course.
any other kind of creature or another player, it's just not that good.
Totally agree. All right, yeah, we can continue moving on there. That was the only question I had there.
Yeah, dragon blood, coagulating dragon blood. The morph with that, increase the base healing of this ability by approximately 12% to ensure it's closer in line with other heals, such as Breath of Life. With this new value, the heal for coagulating. Yeah, like I said, DK always had a heal problem.
Well, if they're gonna put it in line with things such as Breath of Life, I don't know. I sense a very, very quick nerf coming right around the corner after this, but we'll see.
Well, yeah, I kind of agree because of the way Breath of Life works. Breath of Life is kind of a little bit more out, and it could hit you and hit other players, whereas coagulating is a very selfish heal.
Yep.
So, let's see. With the new value, the heal for coagulating should be slightly weaker than these heals: Breath of Life, Blood Sacrifice, etc., etc. While above 50% health, but slightly stronger than them while below 50% health. This deviation in healing effectiveness will be between 0 and 16.5%.
So it's kind of like a panic heal in a sense as well.
Burst heal, and it's not something that you're gonna. You don't use it when you're relatively like 75%. It's when you're down there, you'll get more out of it. And honestly, PvP wise, that's when I'm using it. So
yeah, no, fair enough.
So, I mean, I like it. I'm content with that. I don't use a lot of outside heals on my Mag DK when it comes to Cyrodiil PvP. I pretty much, it's coagulating, or I'm standing there and I'm trying to get away from the fight and using Sigic. So when I'm standing there meditating and regaining health and resources, that's usually about it. And then potions for life.
Pretty much, right? All right, we got that last little bullet point for Dragonites before we move on to Necromancers.
Yeah, protective scales. Fixed an issue where this ability and its morphs animations were reversed.
Womp womp. I had to pull that one on you. I'm sorry. You do it to me all the time.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is what it is. This is just a case in point of when Zos fix something, they break something else.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's better to reverse the animations than reverse the direction you're facing. And then on that note, Necromancer is coming up next. So they fixed an issue where casting a tether ability could sometimes cause your character to turn around and face the complete opposite direction you were facing. Wow. You know what? That really sucks because I play a necro tank, so now that they've fixed this, it's so much nicer to worry about a frickin' tether. I'm not gonna turn away from the boss and then go smack something else. So that's good. They fixed multiple They fixed multiple issues with corpse targeting for necromantic abilities such as the Shocking Siphon. And then on the Grave Lord skill line, the Frozen Colossus, the Pestilent Colossus morph, they fixed an issue where the damage from this ultimate could be dodged. Oof. Despite being a player-sourced area of effect attack.
I wish I would have known this earlier on. Because it was like so many times I got hit by this, and I was just like, alright, it is what it is. If I could have known, I could have roll dodged this thing.
Yep. Crap. So I'm assuming Colossus is what PvP players call Malcolm.
It's the proper term, yeah. It's the Malcolm.
Everybody loves getting hit by the Malcolm. And by love, I mean loves to hate getting hit by the Malcolm. So yeah, that's going to be fun. I have both.
It ties into the whole trait changes that eventually we'll get to at some point, whether it's this one or the next. Because
we're going to go
wombo
over
combo of the Colossus into, a synergized, synergy with Harmonion was just mean.
Mm-hmm. We will eventually go over the trait changes. I want to see how this all levels out, and we'll probably do it on the next episode. Just because I know that we're going to take quite a bit of time getting through this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So the next, the Shocking Siphon, or the Shocking Siphon, which is the base skill, the Morph Detonating Siphon. This ability's final explosion now occurs when the tether ends for any reason, rather than only if the final duration was met. So I'm assuming this would mean if by accident you recast the skill, very similar to that of Momentum on the two-handed skill line, where if you ended it early, it would heal. I'm assuming that's kind of the same idea here.
Well, that, and it's probably similar to the Wall of Elements idea. So
yeah,
when you recast, but I think that there's also a secondary side effect with that, because it makes me wonder if you're a low health opponent and you're going past, and let's say, because I know there's it explodes and does a little bit extra, What if you're walking past and he happens to go out of range, and then because you've exceeded a range of the tether, it pop.
Well, it says for any reason, so I'm assuming that would mean one of the any reasons.
You're like some low health, 2% health person. You walk over the dead body as your enemy's running away from his tether, and it just pops and it kills you.
How's this? I'll let you know on Monday when the class changes come out. I will tether an enemy, and then I will run the complete opposite direction and turn backwards to see if the monster takes any damage when it explodes.
I just think it'd be like, that's one of those things that you're going to be, it's going to rage that guy who is going to be out on the field. He's going to walk over it and he's going to be like, why?
Exactly. Yeah. All right. So
I know I'm going to fall victim to it. It's going to happen. I'm going to sit there.
Oh, for sure. I can just see that in PvP now. They're going to tether you. They're going to make a tether, and then they're going to run like a beep, 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 the opposite direction.
It's not even like I think it will be that much. I just think it's one of those things that it's the ill-timed effect. I think that's what would affect me the most, because it's not exactly viable in the sense of it, but it's just the idea of like, you happened upon it at the wrong time.
Yeah, no
and
doubt,
then it
right?
explodes. It's just like, why me? Why? What did I do to deserve this?
Oh, exactly. So moving on to the Bone Tyrant, Grave Grasp. This ability has received significant improvements to its functionality and now does the following. So the first area now snares enemies hit by 30%, down from 50. The second area now immobilizes enemies hit for up to 4 seconds rather than snaring them. And the final area now stuns enemies hit for up to 3 seconds rather than snaring them. So each area continues to apply minor maim. The Ghostly Embrace morph now increases the duration of all negative effects applied from this ability, rather than adding the immobilize to each field, and as that is now a baseline experience. The Empowering Grasp morph, however, this morph's empower now lasts for the full 5-second duration, rather than just being consumed on use. I have not played with this ability yet, so I cannot really talk too much about that. So
I feel like you'd have to see it in practice. It's definitely, I mean, for what it is, it's pretty strong. I'm not really big on the Empowering Grasp one. Ghostly one, I can only speak from being out in Cyrodiil, but to snares and any kind of immobilize and stun, especially if it's like, if it's doing that, that's a lot. That is a lot.
Oh, exactly.
That's the name of the game. I think when you really look at Cyrodiil in PvP in general, a lot of it's mobility. You know, I mean, you can have the skills, you can have stuff like that, but mobility plays a huge or has a huge impact. So if you can snare them, immobilize them, and stun them, depending on whether or not they've CC broken, and if they're not quick to the draw, it's going to be a pain. That's a lot. That's a very powerful ability.
No, for sure, totally is. Like I said, I just haven't had a chance to play with it, so it's a good thing that you were able to kind of give a little bit of a foresight to the ability. Do you want to cover Nightblade and then I'll cover Sork, or vice versa?
Vice versa. Nightblade's not my forte at all. Nightblade's probably my least played class entirely.
Fair enough. So, funny story about Nightblade, and I mean, I'm going to try and keep this tangent as short as possible, not slow as possible. So I have completely gone against the meta when it comes to Nightblades. I don't play a Stam Blade. I don't play a Mag Blade. Hell, I don't play a Tank Blade. I play a Healer Blade.
He plays Kinara Blade.
Kinara Blade! However, guys, don't hate me. I'm ducking from cover now. My Nightblade is a Bosmer Healer Nightblade. There are so many things wrong with that statement. Bosmer has no mag regen.
I think the Bosmer is the part that's the biggest problem. I think because any class. I come from the school of thought that any class can do anything. So the Healer Nightblade doesn't. But the Bosmer thing just leaves me with questions. Why?
I was gonna go Stam. I was gonna make a Stam Blade. I was told that Bosmer was a very, very good Stam Blade. So when I started leveling my Nightblade, I started looking at rotations, and then I looked at freaking everything, and everyone was telling me, Kinara, you're an idiot. Run like hell. By that time, I had already gotten it to like level 45, and I'm like, well, what the fuck am I gonna do now? I can try Stam Blade. I'll bleep that one out. Call me out on it, why don't you? So I'm like, well, what the heck am I gonna do now? Am I gonna, just delete this tune? I've got it at 45. You know what? So I started looking at the abilities. And the abilities were, I'm gonna sacrifice my health to heal you. So I'm like, I love it. Skinny Dork, you have blessed me with my excuse as to why I've become a Bosmer Nightblade healer. More stamina for running.
What's that? Ahead, you can continue with that. I'm gonna make an addition to his statement.
So Bosmer equals more stamina for running to heal your teammates who stray too far from the healing area. Let them die.
No, see, now the fun part. It's also more stam to run away after your teammates have already died. You charge in, they fall down real fast. You're like, oh, crap. Getting away.
Yep. Oh, look, FCs, you want to try and kill me? Not happening today.
Yep, bail.
Oh, boy. All right. Okay, so that was the side tangent that I promised wouldn't take forever. So Grim Focus in the Assassination skill line. This ability and its morphs now grant 2% critical damage and healing per stack, rather than reducing your damage taken by 2% per stack. Hallelujah! My Nightblade healer is becoming more and more useful. In order to help this ability feel more aggressive and assassination oriented.
That makes a lot more sense, actually.
Yeah. And hey,
I agree with them.
It's gonna give me more healing. My Nightblade healer is becoming more viable. I love it. Stacks removed from these abilities. What?
Well-played class is always viable. It's not always about whether or not the class seems that way. I remember. Let's say a DK healer going back a ways was unheard of, but the class was tanky, and guild member Flyzardi, man, he was a beast for healing, and He was tanky. He was like really good healer, and it was just not the meta. So I mean, sometimes what what is meta is not always best. If you find that you have the ability to play it and you master it, it'll go a long ways.
Yeah, exactly.
It's nice that they'll give you a nice hand, though. It's get that extra little bit now. But if you were doing a good job before, now you'll be able to fall asleep at the keyboard.
So my Nightblade, I'm still kind of it's my own experimental build. I am using a little bit of help from I can't remember the name. The Asian god, actually. He made what's called a Sanguine Shaman, which was a Nightblade healer, also known as a vampire healer. So I'm trying to find a way, without becoming a vampire, to make that build kind of work. So it's a very big work in progress. I have so far been able to complete every normal dungeon I've done without letting people die unless I accidentally screwed up. So, I mean, it's going good so far. We'll try and invent dungeons very, very soon.
See, you shouldn't have admitted to the I screwed up. It's like, I try to prevent people from dying unless I want them to.
But that's what I'm saying, is like, if I legitimately forgot to heal them or I ran out of magicka because I was DPSing too much, that's when they died. What I was trying to say is my Nightblade so far has been viable in the normal dungeons as long as I've been able to, pay attention to actually making sure they're healed. So moving on to the next part of about the Grim Focus is stacks removed from these abilities after ending combat will now be removed in the PvP zones, rather than all the time. This is going to fix numerous issues where you could lose all stacks generated where you appear to still be in combat.
All right, I'm not familiar with actually how that's been working, so
I don't know either. I haven't been into PvP with my Nightblade, so... So the next one, Master Assassin. This passive weapons, it's a passive ability in the assassination skill line. This passive's weapon and spell damage is now granted to your damaging attacks against enemies you are flanking. So now we've got positionals. Pretty super cool.
It's not the first one though. There was actually a Fighters Guild ability that's based on that. So
I do remember that. The only reason I say that this is interesting is, I mean, guys, side tangent quickly, and this will be a quick one. I came from Final Fantasy XIV. Ninjas, which are basically ESO's Nightblade, had a lot to do with positionals. You could not do a certain attack unless you were standing behind them. You could not do the same amount of damage unless you were standing beside them. So it was a lot of moving around. So it's kind of neat how they're kind of bringing in positional attacks to the game and making them, work. So it's kind of neat. So this, so while you're flanking them, rather than getting a universal amount while sneaking or invisible, so you don't have to be sneaking or invisible anymore to be able to, get the benefits to the passive there. So that's good.
Yeah, even looking at the other bullet point. So after you read the next one, I'll give you a little bit of my thought on it. But go ahead.
So what Winters is talking about there is the weapon and spell damage is now a flat 129 and 258 respectively, rather than granting a 5 or 10% of your current amount.
So when I see this, I think that this is both a buff and a nerf to a certain extent, because of just the fact that it's continuous. Because a lot of times you'll find that in, let's say, in a PvP aspect, let's just say, for instance, once you're detected, it's sometimes if you're against a stronger player, it'll be hard to get back into that stealthy setup and be able to do it again. So, the fact that you could just, if you can keep yourself moving in a position where you're flanking them, you'll be able to maintain the buff. Now, the reason I say obviously this is a nerf is because of the flat numbers, because when you looked at the percentage base and you consider that if you had both passives of it, a strong stam build, or even spell damage, it's a little less of a nerf. In weapon damage, though, it is a pretty big nerf, because weapon damage on, let's say, a Nightblade stam build who's really going for it is 6k, 7k, 8k. You're looking at 5, 600 weapon damage versus now this 258. Let's say, Magicka builds generally, you're looking 3 to 4K. So, I mean, it's like 150 point nerf versus 400, 500 point nerf in weapon damage. It's just the fact that at the same time, it's consistently up based on positioning. So,
exactly. Yeah, totally worth it, right? So, it's a good change for sure. All right, we've got wow, Nightblade has actually taken some pretty nasty amount of changes. Holy crap. It's actually the most extensive changes. That being said, apparently Nightblades are finally getting, as we go through this, it'll kind of bring it back up, but I had a friend of mine telling me that he's actually going back to a Nightblade main because they're finally giving them their sneak attack kind of style back that was nerfed so long ago. So, all right. So the next one, Executioner, not to be confused by the Executioner in the two-handed weapon skill line. This is the Executioner on the Nightblade's skill line. This passive now triggers whenever an enemy dies within 2 seconds of being damaged by you, rather than requiring the damage to be an assassination ability. That is super cool. So now it's not just from one ability that's being used. Now it's from a light attack, for crying out loud. As long as you killed the thing, you'll get the passive. So that's good. Removed the hidden 1 millisecond cooldown. So that's literally all that's being said is there is actually a cooldown that nobody was seeing prior. 1 millisecond, really? Why did they even have to bring that up? 1 millisecond is faster than anything, really. So I don't know why they really brought that up. It's weird. But, I mean, hey, this does prove that ZOS does not go unchecked. Their transparency is right there in the notes. So
that's exactly what I was going to say. They're just trying to do it to remain transparent.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, that's one thing that we can always say. No matter how bad this game can get and how many problems that we have noticed in the past and with performance and, bugs and all of that, at least they're transparent about it. They're not hiding it. They will tell you exactly what's wrong with their game.
No, they'll tell you eventually what they're changing, but I think the problem that people have is like, what's the vision for the game?
That is still... Anyways, we're not gonna... I don't want to talk bad about the game, but I mean, I don't think they even know what their full vision of the game is. I think they know a direction. I will say that. I think they have a direction. It's just they've taken a lot on to try and reach that vision and that direction without really contemplating the overall side effects of what they're trying to pull off.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to knock them. I know there's so many cogs in this machine that is Elder Scrolls Online, and there's so many people that working on different teams, and and then when also you have like all the the board members and all those corporate types that want to have, they're concerned about making money and things like that versus the creators. And I understand there is a lot to it. I mean, I think that if there was ever one gripe that I think anybody really had about the game was their focus on performance and the fact that we'll see if they're able to do something about it. But we can move past that. That's...
Yeah. I mean, we can talk about that again for the 3rd episode in a row, and make this another 2-hour-long episode.
See
but
how
let's
important
not.
Performance is.
It totally is. It is one of the most important topics. Like an MMO with no performance does not perform.
MM slow.
Yeah, pretty much. Let's not. Anyways. Moving on. So they fixed an issue where the Executioner passive could fail to work with multiple Nightblades in the party. And they fixed an issue where the passive was causing unnecessary message spam and ability applications to enemies. So that goes back to the whole trying to, remove the amount of calculations that was being sent back to the server before actually processing a said number back to you that you saw physically. So moving on. Oh,
I think the overall thing about it is obviously outside of even that, I'm just the passive changes is just it opens it up to different styles of play. Whereas if you keeping it specific to that particular tree, now it gives anybody who plays a different style or a different way to get the benefit of their passives.
Yeah, exactly. So let's move on to Shadow skill line. So Shadow Cloak. They fixed an issue where this ability was granting immunity to projectiles from targets that had detection potions active. They also
now knowing about it,
right? No more PvP.
Yeah, it's as a Sork chasing down a guy who I'm like, I drink the tech pots like water. Like,
yeah,
you bastards, you had immunity,
right? Now they don't. Updated many cases where this ability's invisibility was removed where it shouldn't have been, such as against Ballista. Care to elaborate a little bit there?
See, like, I don't know. I mean, I would think if you get hit by a ballista, you should. I disagree with that. I disagree. Just because of the idea that, like, if you get hit by a flaming ballista, you're on fire.
Oh, I'm dying over here, man. I'm dying over here. Oh.
I think that's cheese. Like, that's BS.
Yeah, pretty much. But regardless, they fixed it. I can guarantee you Nightblades are gonna bitch.
It's a good thing,
Complain. Nightblades are going to complain. Kinara, scrap that from the frickin' record. You did not swear.
It looks like it, they updated where many cases where this ability's invisibility was removed shouldn't have been. So it looks like they're allowing it for the Shadow Cloak to stick, which is good. Nightblades, that's why they're rejoicing.
Oh, sorry. Either way around. Yes, my apologies.
It's a benefit. Like, I would think if I'm trolling out there and you get hit by a ballista out in the middle of nowhere.
At the end of the day, though, like, you're technically being interrupted. So I'm assuming that Shadow Cloak, the way that they wanted to play this off is you had to be, aware of it. You had to keep it up with your intuition kind of idea. And when you got hit by an enemy player or an enemy's AoE or a ballista, I'm sorry, I don't agree. Now that I reread that, you're right. I don't agree with that. That is basically giving Nightblades another reason to run around completely enveloped in shadow and be invisible and just do what they do every single time. Kill, and be killed. By the way, guys, I have a very big problem with Nightblades because it's one of the biggest classes that I die to when I'm playing my Sork.
You're like me all those years ago.
That's much.
Exactly why I started to carry all the tools to hunt them. And that's why I call it hunting them, because that's why detect pots are my favorite thing on the planet. I keep them on my characters because you're not getting away. I'm going to chase you down.
Pretty much, right? So Summon Shade, the next ability that we're going to talk about, is the ability, and the Dark Shade morph can now be cast without a target, as Shadow Image can. So the Shadow Image morph, the shade from this ability no longer has player collision active to prevent issues where it could become stuck or could be used as a stepping stool. Please be more considerate of your shade's feelings, as it is an extension of you, and you are worth it.
I love their sense of humor with their stuff. Using your shade as a stepping stool. Why do they view it as a stepping stool? Maybe it's your shade. Like when you're standing there and you're like, all right, man, I'll give you a boost, and you put your hands together and you're like, I'm gonna throw them up there. That's your shade's helping you out. Got to get to the next spot, a little higher up.
Pretty friggin' much. All right, moving on before I die of laughter. Siphoning. So the Soul Shred ability. They fixed an issue where the morphs of this ultimate would fail to stack from multiple casters in some cases. Soul Siphon fixed an issue where the heal beam on allies was breaking sooner than intended. Thank frickin' Lord. By the way, again, Nightblade Healer, this is helpful. It will now snap at 30 meters rather than 25. So they actually made it proper. I don't know how much I can say that helps. This Soul Siphon. This is the whole idea behind the Nightblades. Sacrifice health, sacrifice, it's a sacrificial healer, and that's where I'm kind of going with that build. So
you're a martyr.
The fact that, yes, exactly. So the fact that they fixed it is perfect. Love it. And they're making my Nightblade healer more viable. I love it. Moving on. Strife. They increased the damage done for this ability and the funnel health morph by approximately 39% to ensure they properly adhere to heal over time standards. Again, yet another perfect adjustment for healers. So funnel health is basically you funnel your health to help heal and do you funnel health of other monsters to heal your enemies, or to heal. Wow.
Heal your enemies.
You steal health from your enemies to heal your party members.
I wish it worked that
so
way. That'd be
again,
great to troll people.
So this is awesome. My Nightblade healer is becoming more and more and more viable in this game, and I'm absolutely loving it. And I might actually start really paying attention to that Nightblade healer instead of my Necro healer.
I feel like that's a similar skill to how, like, we were discussing Draw Essence and all that. Like you're pulling in the health from your enemies to whereas the TK is more selfish, this one's more like I can pump out more heal.
Yep. Yeah, because I believe, if I remember correctly, the funnel health one, it heals you in a line in front of you, or up to 2 party members. Either way, it heals, more than 50% of you, or up to 50% of you. I can't remember off the top of my head. I haven't been on my Nightblade healer in about a week, so. So they also fixed an issue where both of these abilities would attempt to apply a heal over time, even if the target dodged the attack, causing the empty heal over time to override any existing casts.
I'm here to apply the heal over time.
Fixed an issue where both of these abilities would attempt to apply a heal over time, even if the target dodged the attack. I don't remember seeing that while playing my Nightblade, but I mean, if it was an issue, I guess I'll actually notice a difference come Monday. So.
Oh, wow. So basically, it just took up an actual slot, essentially, in the skill line of the order of operations, essentially. As you go to cast it, it didn't pull anything, but it calculated 0 and was like, here's a heal over time of nothing.
0, exactly. So they fixed it where it won't actually do that. So that's good. That's good.
That's a good thing, yeah.
All right.
It's amazing how these are the things you probably don't even really notice unless you really.
Unless I've told to you.
Like I would have probably never noticed this.
I've been Nightblade healing for, well, how long have I had my Nightblade for? Probably 3 months.
Why am I healing my party for 0?
I never noticed that there was no healing going out. I mean, I'm assuming there's probably a base heal, so there's probably certain amount of heal that would go out. Maybe I said I have to actually look back at the actual skill now to confirm that, but I mean, they're fixing it. Whatever the issue was that I didn't see, they're fixing it, so that's good. All right, well, as much as I don't want to hand over my baby, I'm gonna have to hand you Sorcerer, so it's your turn.
I mean, you can still not hand it over, and I could just chime in.
No. This is too much freaking talking for one person. So I'll let you have Sork, and I'm gonna critique you. I'm gonna critique you. I'm handing my host abilities to Winter's Noble for the Sorcerer segment, guys.
find another podcast.
Don't find another podcast. Don't listen to Winters. He loves podcasting with Kinara.
Oh yeah, by the way, you flubbed that whole deal.
What?
You were supposed to be a character this whole podcast.
Oh, crap.
Busted.
Nope. Next time. Nope, wait, because after this week, it is no longer an ESO strict podcast, so I can talk however I want. Perfect.
No, you're still busted. You screwed that one over.
Yeah, guys. Well, I guess we're gonna have to make it happen on the stream later on this afternoon.
Yeah, who says he can't be on the next podcast? Kinara in Khajiit form can guest star on that podcast.
Oh, this is perfect. I'm now gonna go have to find a voice changer mod. All right, we're doing this. Next podcast, the very first episode, season 2, Starfallen Radio. Hey, I like that better. You will hear a guest performance from Kinara the Khajiit.
Mm-hmm.
All right, move on to Sorcerer.
Yes, the Sorcerers of Dark Magic. It's funny because
yes,
it's a Yu-Gi-Oh card.
Yep. Sorcerer, by the way, guys, my main, also Max main, Winter's main. Sorry,
Yeah,
you guys all know him as Winters.
Old habits die hard.
He's known as Max to a lot of people. So, anyways,
It's
go
short
ahead.
for my character main, which is a Sorc that I've been playing since the game's release. Mainly on the Magicka side, I think. So, Dark Magic, Crystal Shard. Reduce the cast time of this ability and its morphs to 800 milliseconds, down from 1 second.
Woo!
Okay. Yay! Reduce the damage done from these abilities by approximately 21%.
BS.
Yeah, it is, and it is, and it is actually. It was pretty powerful for the cold cast. I mean, I did like that.
I'm gonna miss my 21k hits.
Yeah. I mean, when you can throw these things out and hit as hard as an emperor, which was always fun. I remember Zane discussing that, but we can get into that when we get up to crystal fragments. Reduce the cost to 2,700, down from 2,970.
Yay! Oh, I'm sorry.
On the next class, I'm going to go yay or boo.
Hey, man. Serves you right. You did this to me on the last 2 episodes. It's my turn.
Yeah, fight me. But yeah, I mean, cost-wise, I'm always, it's the standard. Any kind of player is going to be like, yay, cost down, boo, less damage.
I mean, at the end of the day, you suffer, you lose damage, but you gain magicka. So, I mean, over time, your damage is obviously going to be higher because you're not going to run out of magicka fast.
Well, I mean, but when you look at the percentage difference, though, I mean, you're losing. Okay, that's not a 21% cut to the cost, but I understand it because of the way it's going to work. The abilities have a new affix where, after successfully casting, your next non-ultimate ability used within 3 seconds costs 10% less. That's nice. So they decrease the cost, and also they decrease the cost technically again. And it looks like it'll affect itself as long as it's not. They couldn't give it another ultimate effect because we already get the reduced cost from our passives. Yes, Sorc.
Yeah, it's a 10% decrease in magicka, by the way.
Yeah. So I mean, well, it looks like it's just. Oh, did they refine it specifically to magicka?
I believe so. Nope, doesn't look like
No,
it.
it's specific to. It's just 10% less. So depending on what you're doing, which is nice because it's going to apply to both magicka and stam. The crystal fragments morph is what's interesting to me. This ability can now proc off itself. That's cool. Because throwing double procced frags at people back to back, yeah, definite. I agree with him. Thumbs up. Slightly reduce the damage done from the special proc, so it looks like it's still doing similar. So the fact that they decrease the damage significantly, but they're allowing for it to proc off itself, and it's still basically the same damage. They're saying less than 1% difference. That's hefty.
I mean,
and then they
is that 1% difference in accordance to the 21%, or are they keeping the crystal fragments actual spell damage the same and removing 1% from that?
I'm thinking it's from the actual what it's supposed to be doing, because they set the damage at a higher rate, so it looks like they're decreasing the damage of the base one. So if you're just throwing it, you know,
Okay.
And they're also minimizing the impact of you throwing it. Like if you wanted to spam it, it's a more spammable skill, essentially, is what it comes down to.
And
It
I
was
mean,
never really
that's...
I don't think
Sorry, go ahead.
Sork ever really had a spammable when it came down to it as a class skill. So
No.
it was, then they introduced a safety window after activating the special proc to help avoid immediately queuing the base version's cast right after. That was always a big thing.
The bloody heavens for that.
I agree. There was so many times where it's like you throw a frag and then all of a sudden you see you're waving the hands around like...
Or server latency was bad to a point where you hit it, it actually casted, but it took a split second for the actual skill to disappear, like the proc to disappear. And so you would hit it again thinking it never actually hit, and then all of a sudden you're... Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, which I
this
think also
was a
ties
good
in,
idea.
It's more necessary, especially if this thing's procking off of itself too. So
yeah, no, that change is perfect.
Yeah, Crystal Blast. This ability has been reworked into a stamina morph that's long overdue and renamed to Crystal Weapon. It is now an instant cast ability that causes your next light or heavy attack made within 4 seconds to deal additional damage equal to the standard spammable amount, such as Lava Whip or Veiled Strike. Enemies hit by this ability will have their armor reduced by up to 1,000.
So this would technically be the new spammable for Stam build Sorks, correct?
Yeah, if you're not like, one of those guys who likes to, dizzy swing till doom, till the end of the world, yes. But yes, it at least gives it a stamina skill. I think that was another thing that was entirely missing. Stam Sork never had anything inside of the skill tree, really, of their own. They had to rely specifically on the stamina based skill lines like dual wield, two-hander. They were specific to that. They didn't really have anything class based.
Yeah.
Underdark Magic also. Yeah, it's good. They needed that spammable. I'm curious to see how much like damage is going to lay out. I mean, that's probably another reason why they dropped that 21%, is because this one doesn't get the bonus from it. So Crystal Fragments became the spammable for the Magicka. This is the spammable for the Stamina. That one really relies... I'm surprised, though. I guess they're just boosting the lighter heavy, though. That's kind of... If you're not really
very
good
similar
with
to
that
of like it's very similar to that of like Psijic Order's elemental weapon. That's literally what this is. It's a stamina version from Sork called Crystal Weapon.
Yeah, I guess in that regard, it's easier to squeeze in the light attack weave essentially from like a weapon based skill line versus the staves, because they're a little more tedious. Whereas like you literally can click a great sword swing and whoosh, and it's going off already. So,
and I mean, if you're trying to get some stamina back and you have enough to use that, it's also nice because if you're going to be doing a heavy attack to get some stamina back, you're also doing more damage as well. So I can see that also being used for help with sustain.
Yeah. Next skill change, Encase. This ability and its morphs now restore up to 66% of their ability cost if no targets are immobilized from the cast. That's good. That was a good change, because you got punished as a Sork if you really wanted to run that as a CC. If you just were trying and you cast that, and a lot of times people have the CC immunity, you're burning Magicka for nothing. You got nothing back. So at least you could throw this out there and give it like another attempt, and it won't kick you as hard in the teeth. I mean, it's a nice CC when it goes off. It's got a wide spread to it, nice AoE to it. It's just, if you got nothing, you got nothing. You paid for a whole lot of zilch.
Yeah, exactly. And that more lines up to like kind of like I mean, Dragon Knight's got that chain ability where you get 100% back when you doing like a CC thing, but so that's
Yeah,
That's gonna help.
that chain is good. I mean, I think what also, it's just it hurts. I've spammed that
Mhm.
and watched my magic go down, and you're like, you have to really put it down to where you had to really catch them off guard to get it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
couldn't
exactly.
cast it and see if you can get somebody. It was really, you had to catch them and blindside them to get that to go off.
It was nice on bosses because you know that you couldn't do anything to the boss, so you knew you were going to get it back.
Mm-hmm. Daedric Summoning. All pets from this skill line now use a hybrid of your spell damage and max magicka rather than purely max magicka. This change was done to reduce the total power of these abilities when stacking a singular stat.
Boo!
Yeah, it's a nerf. it's
Total
really
nerf. So, because I mean, like, everybody, like, especially right now, like, Sorks, they need their magicka to begin with. And now that they've done this, there's no way that we might, instead of we might have a couple of accessories now that would be traded to or enchanted to spell damage over max magicka, but I can guarantee you there's going to be a lot of changes to make this now a viable thing to run a pet.
Yeah, I mean, it'll come down to is people now have to figure out what the recalculation is. Is essentially what it comes down to. You can't just throw it all in. I mean, in a way, I'm not so sure what the difference will be per se versus, let's say, the PvE side of things. PvP, it'll have a large impact because if Sork benefits most from throwing it all in there, and I know there are Sorks out there that like to run a pet. It might make them less likely to do it because now when they were throwing it all into, let's say, Crafty Alfiq plus Bright Throats, for instance, and they're getting high max magic and they're pushing 50k, they're able to hit like trucks. Their pets are able to hit pretty hard. That's kind of reduced because now you have to sacrifice that little bit of damage if you go that route for better shields or like other benefits to it. So now you have to recalculate where your efficiency is. So.
Yep, exactly.
Because there's no guarantee per se that that's an absolute destroy of the amount of damage. Like it won't bring it down drastically. We don't know. It has to be tested to see because some people have decent spell damage also, even with max magicka. It's just less reliant on it.
Yep.
Rebate. This passive now restores 150 or 300 depending on the buy-in on skill points. Magicka stamina determined by what the ability cost. When one of your Daedric summoning non-ultimate abilities end, rather than restoring magicka when your Daedric summoning pets died or were unsummoned.
Useless change. I mean, the chances of your summoning or your pets dying, very, very unheard of if your tank was doing their job. I mean, in solo play maybe, but I mean they could have left this one alone.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how that kicks back. Like if there's an abusable factor to it, like if you can control things like that, like is that basically when you force it to end and start it again, type thing. I know that the pets don't get resummoned, but I believe there's a couple other things in there where you can get the cost back, minimizing the initial impact of that expenditure. Summon Unstable Familiar fixed an issue where this ability and its morph's special area of effect attack had a higher chance of applying concussed than intended.
Nerf.
Yeah. That's why they always squeeze it in. It's like, as intended.
Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna do that, I would have reworded it a little differently because basically you're saying we effed up, and now we're fixing the f up, and now we're going to make you suffer. I mean, okay. So on one hand, this sucks because my Sork, I mean, they've always been very, 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 good at being an easy to achieve high damage class. They seem now to be that class that is finally getting the nerf that has long been awaited for. Like a lot of people have been wondering when this was going to come down, and I think this is it.
Well, I mean, it comes down to certain questions. Because we're sitting here and there's a lot of information that we don't have because they say that there was a higher chance. Now the question being is what was the community seeing? Because if it was supposed to be a 5% chance, was it 10 or was it
Mhm.
50? How often
Mhm.
was it going off? I mean, if it was 50, that kind of justifies it. And it's like, it sucks, but they're bringing it in line. I mean, eh,
Mhm.
yeah, I don't fault them to a certain extent for like the intended. It's just how veiled is this change? I mean,
Yeah.
what is the decrease? How far off were they off the mark?
Yep. Exactly.
Moving along on this, because summon volatile familiar, the morph of the other. Fixed an issue where this ability stun applied on the second to last tick rather than on the final tick. All right, that just sounds like, hey, we did it. It wasn't intended.
Yeah. Or server latency was mucking it all up.
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
something.
that, or
Yep.
it's just, again, when the amount of coding, that's just
Yeah.
oops.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's not a nerf, it's a fix, so that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Summon unstable clan fear. This ability's special ability is now halved when healing itself.
That sucks.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
so
just
keep it.
itself, but
I mean, again, how disgusting was it healing itself? Would it make it unkillable? I mean, there's a certain question to it. I mean, on the surface, it looks like it absolutely blows, but
I mean, at the end of the day, the clan fear was never really more for the heal side. It was more for, actually, a lot of people don't even run the clan fear. It's the tormentor that they run.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's not a horrible it's not a horrible problem, because I can guarantee you that it's not going to change people whether they're going to run it or not. So
Yeah, I mean, if it prevented it from dying ever because the heal was so strong, that's a big deal. I mean, at the same time though, I'm kind of like, why do wardens get to keep their bear? I understand it's an ultimate, but come on.
Yeah.
Fixed an issue where the taunt this pet could cast was on its global cooldown, which could lower its DPS.
And that right there is where I think that the clan fear may become viable again, but we'll see.
Yeah, it depends. More DPS is always welcomed. Again, standard community response. Less DPS, boo. More DPS, yay. More recovery, yay. Less recovery, boo. Oh wait, and then there's always the other standard is like, blame the PvPers, it's their fault.
Pretty much, right?
Storm
All right.
calling. Me love me some Bolt Escape.
Mmm.
Ball of
Arcaneer from Tales of Tamriel also loves Bolt Escape.
Yeah, I laughed actually. The game, oh god, really? Bolt Escape's, especially back early on when it didn't have the cost increase ramp up where you could like Bolt Escape across Cyrodiil the whole way.
Yep.
I love the mobility of the Sork, and that's one of the key reasons, because that it has that skill gets it around. The maneuverability of a Sork is so great. Ball of Lightning more. Fixed an issue where this ability's actual Ball of Lightning could count towards successful kills in some cases.
That's clearly talking about PvP.
Yeah, it's great.
And every PvP player is going, thank you, Zos. Thank you, Zos. Thank you, Zos.
No, actually, I think this is against that. And you know why I think that? Because it was counting as a kill. If I attacked the Ball of Lightning and it died, did I get my magic back? Did I get bonuses for killing the Ball of Lightning?
Oh, I'm reading this the other way.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's like I poked it and I got a weapon damage bonus, or I got the kill on a player.
Yeah, I'm reading it where the actual, like, the Sork that is casting the Ball of Lightning morph ability is actually getting the kills, not the other way around.
I think it ties into the next bullet point. Fixed an issue where the ball would leave a corpse for a brief moment. So not only do you kill the ball, but then a necromancer's like,
mine.
Yes, exactly. That Ball of Lightning, I will absorb its essence.
I like the fact that I can actually do this kind of stuff and it's not laggy anymore. So it's like, hey, I can actually finally bring some diversity to the freaking cam that I have. Yeah, by the way, guys, if you didn't already know, I got a new camera finally. It was long overdue.
Yeah, using your phone.
I mean, it's a great thing if I had the ability to find a way to make it work as intended. There's a lot of people out there that use capture cards with cameras. If I had done it that way, it probably would have been 10 times better. But yay, stamina. Yes, Key. Yay, stamina.
Boo, stamina.
All right. So I guess that leaves us to Templar and Warden. I don't main a Templar. I know you don't main a Templar. So I think what we should do is just quickly go through these and chat. If you have anything to add, I would speak up while we're going through these, and we can kind of go off of your conversation topic. I mean, I've got a Warden, but my Warden is not any particular Warden. It is very experimental. It is becoming an Ice Warden tank. And it's literally going to be maximum magicka as much as I can to be able to block and heavy attack to taunt. So, I mean, I don't really have a Warden. So on the Templar's Adric's Spear skill line, the Burning Light ability, or passive, sorry, has been slightly reworked so that the damage now triggers when you deal damage 4 times within rapid succession to an enemy with an Adric's Spear ability, rather than having a 25% chance to proc per hit. Note that the time window is long enough that the abilities that hit at least once every second between will continue to proc this passive. Does that make any sense to you?
It's more controllable, essentially, is what it comes down to. So there, again, it's removing the calculation outright and just saying, you know, when you do this, it occurs, instead of it having to go, does it count now? How about now? Maybe now? How about this time? Not that time? Next time? No? Damn. So.
Key, no worries, man. I only run one stamina build, and that is literally only when I feel like dying a lot.
I do actually run a couple. I have a Stam Sork, a Stam Warden.
Oh, literally, yeah, that reminds me. I need to level another Sork on the Stam side for the testing abilities that we were talking about on the Kraglins Howl gear set from last week. Anyways, moving on. We're talking about Templar, not Sorks anymore. Puncturing Strikes. Reduced the tick frequency of this ability, and it's morphs to 333 milliseconds, down from 300 milliseconds, to better sync its damage with its animation. That's what I was talking about earlier, where the animations didn't line up. Puncturing Sweeps morph. They fixed an issue where the heal from this ability was based on the fire damage of the... wow, where the heck did fire come from? Was it based on the damage of the initial hit rather than the moment of damage amount?
Read. Words are hard.
Rather than the amount of damage done to each individual target, resulting in a significant reduction to healing when hitting multiple targets. So with this fix, we'll be keeping a close eye, we as in us, on the Templar's ability to stay in the thick of the fight. Isn't like sweeps and jabs like two of the biggest killable?
It's a big time spammable. Jabs, not so much in the sense of heal. Puncturing Sweeps was great because it was a outright heal. I mean, if you were in the thick of it and you were able to poke a bunch of people inside that cone, you were able to maintain a certain amount of I'm going to stay alive. In pulling that back, that's a health hold that, you know, that hurts. That hurts a lot, actually.
So the heal is getting nerfed substantially.
Yeah, if it's going to be like that, and because every tick was nice, because for every tick of damage, and you watch your health just kind of, you know, that was one of the best things. Let's say even on the PvE side of things, when I was doing Sky Reach grinds for people, and you'd be there taking them through, and I get all the mobs together, and one of the reasons you're able to just, you know, you're puncturing sweeping, you're watching your health just completely counteract all the damage you're taking in. So. You know, you might see that difference even in that kind of circumstance, because you're just poke, heal, and then nothing.
Yeah.
Poke, heal, nothing.
So they're basically saying that they're going to keep an eye on how Templar's survivability still is after this change. That makes sense.
Yeah, maybe we'll see that get pulled back, which would be I don't see why it was such a big deal in the first place with the healing reductions. It wasn't, something. I didn't think it was that OP in the first place.
Again,
it
it's
hurts,
probably the calculations thing too, right?
Yeah, it has to be that. They might have to
Yeah.
figure out how to really. They might up it, per hit, or they might put it in a multiple ticks instead of every tick. Who knows? That's rough.
Yeah, they didn't say that they've nerfed it or removed it. They've just said that, it's only on one hit instead of multiple. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. Radial Sweep. This ultimate and its morphs now have a minor cast time to help better sync their damage and animation, as well as adding more time for counter play to react.
They just killed that ultimate in PvP, in my opinion, because one of the best things and why it was furred was that when they brought in the cast times for like Dawnbreaker, people wanted that instantaneous hit. So when they brought in the cast times, they wanted to find something else that could have that surprise factor. And Radial Sweep became the go-to for Templars because it didn't have it. You hit it, it went off. That was it.
Yeah.
That was the only reason it had its preference. It wasn't because of the damage. It was cheap and it could go off quick. Now it's just cheap and hits like a noodle. So, and if it's got that little time, people are going to go back. I mean, people were kind of already leaning back toward like Dawnbreaker and other ones. It loses a lot of its benefit in having that cast time. That was what made it for the past bunch of patches, was that I didn't have one.
Fair enough. All right, so Dawn's Wrath skill line, the Backlash ability, they fixed an issue where the ability and its morphs stored much more damage to the target than the tooltip stated. This will make the ability require more damage, particularly in PvP, in order to reach its maximum damage. So this is like a stack thing?
Yeah, what happens is Backlash actually takes note of the amount of damage that you've done to the opponent. So it's kind of like a mirror, and then releases it when it hits a certain threshold, which is usually time. You apply it. You could see like when the little light beacon is on the opponent, like you're either your target essentially. You have the little light beacon on them, and while you're there and you're dealing out the damage, it totals up and it hits the max. And then when it times out, it releases what it stored.
It's like a ticking time bomb.
Yes, is exactly what that would be. Yep.
All right.
So apparently it was stacking more. Whoops.
Well, then, I mean, yeah, people are going to hate that. You're going to hear Templars complaining on Monday. So they fixed an issue where these abilities did not reset their stored damage values after detonating in some cases. Oof. So they were technically exponentially climbing every time they used this ability.
That, or I can read that it's one of two ways. Like, if it actually could do that, yes, but my interpretation is, let's say I place it on you and I do maybe 50% of the cap, right? So then it can work in this way. I do 50% of the cap, it goes pop. I go back in, I do it again. Either it resumes and hits cap, or it locks in and stays at that 50% and goes off.
Makes sense.
So I'm assuming more along the lines of like, let's say I'm only able to do 25% of the damage to get to cap each time, but the next time, because it kept my previous damage, I could get further along, even though I'm not supposed to be able to.
Okay, that makes sense. So moving on to Restoring Light, the Cleansing Ritual ability, actually, the Ritual of Retribution morph, now sacrifices its healing potential for the damage, rather than adding damage on top of the healing. So the damage is now increases by 5% each tick for the duration of the ability, up to a maximum of 35%. So no healing, more damage. That's what I'm seeing here?
Yeah, that's...
Okay.
So it's leaning more toward the offensive side of things. Okay, I guess that's the idea of retribution. You're going to get them back for killing your party mates.
Fair enough.
Slaughtering your horse. Burning your house.
Fair enough. So
Stealing
healing
your Elder
ritual.
Scroll,
Oh,
raiding my cave,
PvP. Yep.
breaking down
Makes
the
all
door
the
of my
sense.
castle.
Makes all the sense in the world.
Ranting and raving and carrying on.
Hey, you're the one that didn't want to make this another 2-hour episode. We're at an hour and 45.
We failed hard. At this point, it is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, we're covering a lot, and we are doing a lot of side tangents, and I mean it'll get better as we go. But whatever. I think people are enjoying it. We haven't lost any of our viewers yet. They seem to like what we're talking about.
I believe I could say this.
Hey, Ishii, buddy, how's it going, my friend?
Sorry, not sorry. Hey, Ishii.
What am I watching this for? I don't know. What are you watching this for, Ishii? For the learning of the class changes. You want 2-hour episodes? I can make that happen. I don't know how long Winters will want to keep doing 2-hour episodes for. Moving on. The healing ritual. Reduce the cost of this ability, and it's morphs to 5260. Holy shiza. That's a lot of magicka. Down from 7290. They also decrease the healing of these abilities by approximately 25%. Quick math, Winters, is that worth it? This will set a new AoE heal spammable standard where the healing and costs are 50% more than the AoE damage spammable counterpart, which we will monitor, we being Zos again, and adhere other abilities to in a future update. Does the math work out?
I mean, yeah, it's actually pretty close. I mean, for what its cost is versus what you're losing. So they're just making it where it is usable, well, a little more spammable, which is always decent. That is a high cost for 7290. You can mitigate that down a lot. So for what it's already reducing off of it, I mean, we can get the exact numbers.
While he's doing that, so the Light Weaver. This passive has been updated, so healing an ally under 50% of any restoring light ability restores 1 to 2 ultimate, rather than restoring 1 to 2 ultimate when healing an ally under 60% health with healing ritual. This passive no longer extends the duration of restoring aura. They also fixed an issue where this passive only granted ultimate to targets that were still under 50% health after healing. So that last little issue that I had added in there, so initially when they released the testing in the servers on the PTS, they had determined that there was still an issue with the Lightweaver passive, so that's why they added that last part, and I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware that if they were in the PTS, that it has been fixed, so.
Yeah, going back to that previous skill, it's a 28% cost decrease, so.
Okay, I mean, so
it's in line for the most part.
That's perfect.
Just being able to spam it and not get hit as hard on your resources, that's not bad. I mean, it's, if you're looking at a 25% cut to the amount of healing it does, it may not be as big of a deal depending on the number that it's, reducing it off of.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, 25 and 28 are, two totally different numbers. And I mean, it sounds like the heal is still going to be more potent per point than even, even after the nerfs. So.
Yep.
Good. Warden. This one's a pretty easy, quick one. So the animal companion Swarm, growing Swarm morph fixed an issue where this ability couldn't be cast while silenced. Okay, that's neat.
Yep. Yeah, no, I actually experienced that quite a bit because it's part of my stamina warden.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, they're animal companions. They're not a magicka ability, so that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, they still silence the ones that are the magicka based ones because there's just the two different essences essentially. So.
So
I throw bugs versus I conjure bugs. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, conjuration is still magic, so. Yep. I mean, that's like we technically can't, as Sorks, can't summon our pets inside of a silence bubble. So. The healing seed skill under the green balance skill line, the synergy from this ability and its morphs no longer count as a green balance skill, as synergies are not meant to be enhanced by the respective skill line's passives. They are activated by allies and not the caster themselves.
They're activated in alleyways. Watch out.
Yeah. Where Kinara, the sneaky Khajiit cat, is going to attack you with his very, very sharp claws. There you go. You got your little Kinara tidbit there.
I'm totally afraid of Kinara and his claws. As I set him on fire.
Yeah, pretty much. Hey, Kinara can control the fire too, you know. And he'll, set you off balance with his lightning.
All right, we're going to have to duel after this.
No, not happening. Kinara will lose. The morph budding seeds. They fixed an issue where the animation for recasting this ability could force its animation after a delay, rather than skipping its animation if you were already preoccupied. So, I mean, this helps with your light attack weaving and block casting and animation canceling, meaning that you can, move on to the next thing a little bit faster. They also fixed an issue where the heal from this ability could happen twice in some very specific situations. They never, elaborated on what those specific situations were, but there were specific ones. So, that being that is Warden for you guys. And that brings us to the Mundus Stones quickly.
We're going to jump a bit, okay.
What are we jumping to?
So we're doing just class to Mundus. Alrighty.
Yeah. We're not covering traits. We could go. Oh, I didn't put any of the world stuff in. That's right too. I was going to. If you have any of that stuff, was there anything that you wanted to touch on there?
Yeah, we could always go back and do it again. There's always more.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like these changes are still.
Yeah, I mean, the Mundus Stone changes are pretty quick to go over, in all honesty, anyway, so. I think just because the way they tie in.
Fair enough. All right, let's quickly do that then. So, the Atronach and the Serpent, what they've done there is they've increased the recovery bonus granted to 310, up from 238. Hey, recovery is always good, guys. So that's a 72 point increase. So hey, that's a substantial amount.
In a lot of circumstances, it's actually more because when you factor in most of the time, everybody's got a status effect on them that's going to increase it by 20%. So it's going to be more than that.
Yeah, exactly. The Mage in the Tower, they decreased the maximum resource granted from 223 down from 228. I mean, not a big deal. You're losing 5 points of resource granted. So, I mean, I wouldn't worry about it. There's probably a reason for it. I don't know what the reason for it is. They haven't really, delved into it and told us, but
some of these changes where they drop it by like 5, 6, 7 points is just like, why? It's just like your subtle way of like little nerfs here and there. Like, it's kind of suspicious.
Well, I mean, for this one, I can see it because, I mean, talking about CP trees earlier, if, you have so much CP points in a certain CP passive, I mean, it could probably exponentially grow, and I think that's probably why they've decreased it a little bit. I don't know, maybe to stop people from stacking CP points. I don't know, because they did the same thing with the Lord as well as the Lady and the Lover. Really, the Lord, they decreased the maximum health to 225 down from 2,230. And then the Lady and the Lover, they decreased the armor and armor penetration granted from 2752 down to 2744. So, I mean, like, small changes, very small changes. And then the Thief as well. And, I mean, there was a lot of speculation of how the Thief and the Shadow might actually become, a discrepancy in which one would be better to run in a lot of cases, again. So, they increased the critical strike up 4 points, and then on the Shadow, it grants 11 critical damage and healing rather than 13% critical damage. So they brought the Thief up and the Shadow down. So are they going to be, kind of in that, same realm of usefulness? Like, is it going to be you either use this for this build or this for that build?
I mean, the shadow now opens up to healings as well. Consider that. Originally,
Mhm.
it's damage. Now it's being added in where it has the chance of critical healing.
Mm-hmm.
So, crit heals for the win.
It's gonna help the healers a little bit, I think. Maybe we'll see. I mean, they'll probably still want to use Thief, but
Depends. They might be able to find
or the
way,
ritual.
way of getting that up there.
Mm-hmm. And then yeah, so the last but not least was the ritual, and they actually decreased the healing done to 8% down from 10%. So I mean, not huge.
That's their mission, to try to reduce healing for the most part.
But the nice part is as a Nightblade, that 2% you're losing in the ritual, you regain from one of the skills. So there's that.
Yeah, now that you're
Nightblades aren't getting
that,
anything.
yeah.
So that explains a little bit.
Damn Nightblades.
So Nightblades, you know, they had a moment of where, oh yeah, we get an extra couple of percent of healing done, and then if they run the ritual, well, guess again. So,
yeah.
All right. So what is it that you were thinking of touching on after we talked about the Mundus Stones here? Thought we were just going to go over class changes. So.
Yeah, I mean, we'll eventually have to, we could touch on the weapon changes and world changes and stuff.
Oh
like
yes. Yeah, we can definitely probably touch them on the next episode after we get some final numbers and maybe a little bit of testing that comes out of some of the high end guys and the builders and stuff. So yeah, I guess what we'll do now is we'll move over to the gear sets and just work towards wrapping the show up here. So give us a second, guys. I'm just gonna mute us. So, the gear sets that I wanted to cover this week were just a few of the gear sets that are going to be coming out of the Stonethorn dungeon. I know we touched on one last week in the Stonethorn dungeon preview, but this week I chose two 5-piece sets and a 2-piece set. The 2-piece set that I chose was actually one that they kind of hinted at what it was all about in the Stonethorn dungeon preview, so I wanted to actually bring you a more, this is exactly what they are going to be. So what we'll do is we'll start with the Stone Husk set from last week that we were talking about. So the first item that you get, usually the headpiece from the dungeon, would be adds 833 weapon critical. And the 2 items is your heavy attacks tether you to enemies within 10 meters for 5 seconds. When enemies touch the tether, they take 1906 physical damage every 1 second, and you gain a stack of Husk Drain, up to a maximum of 15. When the tether is broken, if the enemy the tether is broken if the enemy moves 12 meters away from you. And this effect can occur once every 10 seconds. When the tether ends, you consume the stacks and gain 30 weapon damage per stack consumed for 5 seconds. Pretty decent.
Yeah,
so 30 and 15 was 450, so it's a quick, easy build.
It's how they kind of mid-ground, like against, let's say, Kenna or Belorg, which generally you'd gain a lot of weapon damage or spell damage. This is obviously specific toward the weapon damage side, but because it does damage in addition. Mm-hmm. So they did the tether and the dot, giving an opportunity to counterplay it.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it seems to be a fairly decent set, so we'll see what happens going forward. The next one I chose was a Magicka set, the Elemental Catalyst. I really liked this one due to the fact that it had a lot to do with elemental weaknesses. So the 2-item bonus adds 1096 maximum magicka. The 3 items adds 833 spell critical. 4 items adds another 1096 maximum magicka. And the 5th item, whenever you deal flame, shock, or frost damage, pick me on Sork with both flame and shock, you apply a stack of flame, shock, or frost weakness to the enemy for 5 seconds. Each stack of an elemental weakness increases their critical damage taken by 6%. Ooh, this sounds like it might be an interesting Sork piece. or mag piece for sure. An enemy can only have one stack of each elemental weakness at a time.
It's definitely interesting considering the types of damage, and you can balance that with something like, with like a Sork that can go back and forth between it. So if you can get one elemental weakness at a time, you can get a trade up between, lightning and fire, even on a Sork build. Let's say like Wall of Elements going maybe Inferno Staff with like lightning stuff from the Sork, and then run something like Illumbris.
Mm-hmm.
Because Illumbris, if you can proc both types of elemental damage raining down.
Yep, exactly. Another thing I like about this, especially like for anybody that uses the destruction staff ability, elemental wall, is I don't think this occurs only on one enemy at a time. I think it's, you can do it to multiple enemies. So when you're using that elemental wall, which is a shock damage, you can technically actually apply it to anything that's in that line when you apply it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's going to be super, super helpful for, prog runs or speed runs and stuff like that with mobs. It might be viable for sure.
It definitely leaves it leaves you with the question of that 6% and depending on that 12%, depending on what you're going for.
Mm-hmm.
Is the additional critical damage for each stack. If you could actually even get in like some frost.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And last but not least, guys, the last one I chose was a stamina set for, more of the stam builds. And it's called the Unleashed Terror. 2 items adds 129 weapon damage. 3 items adds 1096 maximum stamina. 4 items adds an additional 1096 maximum stamina. And 5 items, when you deal direct damage with a charge, leap, teleport, or pull ability, you cut your enemy, causing them to bleed for 5 seconds, dealing 19,728 physical damage over the duration. So that's a tick of about 4k every second. Just a little shy of. This ability can occur once every 10 seconds per target. So this isn't just, it gets applied to a random target. You can turn around and every time you deal direct damage to, like, let's say five different mobs, this damage is now basically being a dot stack effect. Super cool, super awesome. And can I say charge, leap, or pull? Who's going to be using that one if it's a viable set?
I think the teleport thing also is like kind of interesting for like a Stam Sork, because apparently teleport counts. It's basically any kind of gap close is essentially what it is. You gap close and smack them. That hits pretty freaking hard.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie. I'm like just even like under the concept of like critical charge or anything that's just That's
I mean,
nuts.
you get your direct damage up, and you're pretty much applying this to, like, if you literally sit there and apply it to like 4 or 5 enemies, by the time you're ready to reapply it again, the first enemy's already been past their 10 seconds or whatever.
I think the easiest one to do, even a large amount of enemies, is leap. If you're a stamina dragon knight,
right?
You do a full-on ferocious leap into somebody, or whatever. You take flight and you land among them all. Each one gets a nice little surprise.
Yeah. 20k damage per enemy hit, and you leap on, a group of like 10 mobs. You're gonna melt those mother truckers.
Well, the reason I say this is because I look at it in the sense of like leap hits hard in the first place, and then the moment it lands, you hit them and they're already getting hit with almost a 4k tick. Don't get me wrong, go a long way, but still, that's additional tick per damage. Immediately after a leap.
I definitely can tell you that my Stam DK is probably gonna go farm that set.
And you consider also the only kind of CC that occurs from impact. That's kind of mean. If you could follow up with like a cleave immediately afterwards, leap, tick, cleave, and then let's say you have what is it, the Maelstrom arena great sword, cleave damage bonus. If you actually hit a group of them and they all get the additional tick plus the cleave smack, and cleave will get the additional damage per amount of person that's getting hit by it, upwards of I think of like 3 additional target. That's a large amount of damage in a tiny swath of space.
So that being said, what do you think this is going to be like in PvP?
That's pretty devastating in certain circumstances. I think that's a pretty hard hit. I like that set.
That's what I think.
Because I mean, when you stack in like the max stam, and weapon damage, those are 3 really strong. Even I know it doesn't have the weapon critical, but I would take the max stam weapon damage bonus.
Yeah,
And
it's
I think that tick is, and then when you look at the downtime for it, it's only down 5 seconds, and then it can be
basically,
applied
yep.
again. So that's a 50% time.
And I mean, how fast can one a DK generate ultimate? Like a leap ability is a pretty low cost ultimate, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah, leap isn't really, it's not an expensive ability, no, and it does hit very, very hard. I mean, even then, if you put a gap closer on it, you can start the whole process. I just think that the leap is funny because of it's a large AOE. That's why teleport too for Samsorg. Like if you're using bolt escape, which some still do. I mean, even though it has a magicka cost, you bolt through them and you have applied this and you've stunned them.
Yep.
That's a strong hit, and then you turn around and you can hit them pretty hard.
Can you imagine if there was a Stam and a Stam Sork and a Stam DK in the party? Teleport on one end, because this is not saying that it can't be stacked. Maybe it might not be able to, but like, can you imagine? Jesus.
Yeah, well, I mean, they would have to get that's per individual. So yeah, if you stack that up, they're getting hit with a couple ticks worth of damage per, and you literally, if you bolt escape them and then you dunk on them with a with the leap, it's a pretty hard hitting 1-2 hit.
Here's my thoughts on this whole thing. As a Stam DK, I use the ability on the 2-hander Stampede. That's technically a charge attack. Then I have chains that pulls enemies in, or pulls me to the enemy, that I use on my back bar. And then I also have Ferocious Leap, or Take Flight actually is what I use, I think. So I have the ability to hit 2 other enemies, plus whoever I leap on. That is going to add to a significant amount of damage over the course of a fight. It's going to be melty.
Yes and no. I think that there's an overinvestment at that point. I think if you can apply it in the shortest amount of hits possible, that's why I think leap and teleport are really what make it very noticeable, is because they're AoE. They will hit, and it's still considered direct, and you land among them. So even if, let's say, it's still a singular target, I think that, I mean, teleport though, I think that's going to be about as direct as you get. I think the chains, though, by the time that you've invested that much time in multi-targeting individual players at that point, you could have applied damage to an individual. I think there's a point where you have to balance out the idea of hitting the group and then hitting an individual player. Yeah, you could apply that, but if you could have killed another player in that amount of time, you've already weakened their overall play style at that point, their overall situation.
Makes sense.
So
that makes sense.
The idea of you want to get the benefit of the set. I think you don't want to over rely on it at the same time.
No, that totally makes sense then. All right. Well, guys, that was yet another 2-hour show. And Kinara is now going to be spending the rest of his evening editing all of this wonderful stuff. Actually, I'm hoping that it's going to be pretty easy. I think so far all I have to do is edit out one swear word and edit out when Discord kind of went on Winter's side. But yeah, guys, that is the class changes that will be live on Monday. So when you guys are hearing this podcast on the audio platform of your choice, that means today. So guys, I hope that you guys all enjoy the changes that are coming. If you guys want, I don't hesitate to email us your thoughts on the class changes. We would like to hear about it, and we can discuss other things on another episode that you guys like, dislike, or anything like that. So guys, don't hesitate to email us or shoot us a comment anywhere that you can find me, which we'll get to in a little bit.
Always greatly appreciated.
Yeah, the feedback is going to be where we, get a lot of the information to go forward with. Guys, this podcast isn't just, for me, it's not just for Winters. It's for every single person that plays ESO. And I mean, after next week, it's also for everybody that plays video games in general. This podcast is all about community. It's all about, playing with the players. Me and Winters are just the voices behind the show. That doesn't mean that we're, we know everything and that we're going to portray that we know everything, because, at the end of the day, Winters has got a massive knowledge of the game that we're playing right now. And he's, a pretty smart guy and can figure all that kind of stuff out. And then for me, I'm one of those people that...
What you're talking about.
I'm one of those people that just kind of throw myself into things and figure it out as I go. So, yeah, guys, your feedback, your support, your comments, your concerns, your reviews, your suggestions are always, always encouraged. Don't hesitate. We're not going to knock down anything. Any email we get, any voicemail message we get, any comment we get, we are going to mull it over, and we are going to make sure that, we're going to bring it to light, because no idea is a bad idea unless you're telling Kinara to jump off a cliff. That's a bad idea. Guys, we are on iTunes. What's that?
Player versus gravity.
Yeah, pretty much. We do a lot of that in PvP. Guys, we are on iTunes, and if you like the show, as much as we consider asking you to leave us a review on any of the platforms you listen to, if you do leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, we will show you some love on the show.
I like Ishi's suggestion is definitely the best.
No, Ishi wants me to jump off a bridge. Ishi, you know what? I'm rescinding your invitation to tomorrow's dungeon run. No, I'm just kidding. Guys, you can always shoot your suggestions over to us at KNebulo Media. That is K-N as in Nancy, E-B-U-L-L-O media @gmail.com. You can send us a voicemail over at anchor.fm/starfallengames/message. And you can find Kinara on Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at Starfallen Games. Guys, YouTube is something that's a work in progress, and we should have some videos up very, very soon. So please look forward to that. Winters, before we end the show, is there anything else you wanted to add in?
No, I mean, it comes down to we're here to entertain, we're here to have fun, and we want to include everybody in it. If you're also listening along and you want to say something inside of the chat, we will talk to you. So don't forget that. So everybody's included in this. This dumpster fire includes all. Jump on in and enjoy the warmth.
Yep. Going forward, like I said, we're obviously changing it up a little bit starting next week. So do tune in to next week's episode to kind of see the direction that we're going in. Winters, am I safe to say that we're going to be kind of shooting for that 12:30 Pacific Standard Time mark for, the podcasts?
Yeah, I think this is probably about the decent ballpark timing. So.
All right, perfect. Guys, if you are ever unsure of when the episode is going to appear live, I will try to, as early in the morning as possible, shoot it out on the Twitterverse. So guys, until next time, may your moon sugars be ever sweet and your ales ever strong.